Here we go. This is like my 8th time trying to do this. I will fly this. We will get this started. It'll be a piece
Welcome
of
to
cake.
the startup lesson. Today we will
Alright.
practice the engine start procedure for the P-51D. Press the spacebar key to
Pressing
begin.
the space bar.
The engine start
Turn the
sequence is
engine
not
over,
very
man.
complicated. We will
Yeah,
move
it
around the
is.
cockpit clockwise, starting on the left side to configure the aircraft for
So
engine
go
start.
This way.
Let's begin with the
then
flaps
back
control
to
handle,
here.
positioned to the rear bottom left side of the cockpit. For a normal takeoff,
Hold
flaps
up.
are not usually lowered. However, 15 to 20 degrees of flaps can be used when a minimum run takeoff is required. Set the flaps control handle all the way up to the up position. To do this, you can either click and drag the handle with the mouse or press left shift plus F command repeatedly until it is all the way up. Note, the flaps won't actually come up until the engine is running and there is sufficient pressure in the hydraulic system to raise them. Now set the carburetor induction system for normal operation by moving the cold air control handle all the way forward to the ram air position and the hot air control handle all the way forward to
All
the
the way
normal
forward.
position.
All the way forward. Why, that's
Next,
killing me.
set the
It's
coolant and
freaking
oil
starter.
radiator air control switches to the auto position for automatic operation of the coolant and oil radiator flap doors. To do so, left-click on the auto switch positions. Don't forget to close the switch covers after. Adjust the trim tabs to prepare for takeoff. Set rudder trim to 5 degrees right. Elevator trim depends on fuel load. With the fuselage tank empty, elevator trim can be left neutral. With the fuselage tank filled with 25 gallons or more, elevator trim should be set between 2 and 4 degrees nose down. Aileron trim remains neutral. On the throttle quadrant, ensure the propeller RPM lever marked P is set all the way forward to increase and the fuel mixture lever marked M is set to idle cutoff. Set the throttle handle about 1 inch forward from the fullback position to slightly open the throttle butterfly valve and allow air to flow to the engine. If you don't have a throttle controller, the plus and minus keys on the keyboard numpad can be used to move the throttle handle.
There we go. Alright, got a throttle so I can increase this manually using
Moving
the
to
thing.
the engine
There we go.
control panel on the front
You get a
dash,
little more.
turn on the fuel booster pump by setting the fuel booster switch to the up
Turning
position by
on.
clicking
Alright,
over
it's
the
on.
switch.
Uh-huh.
Select the left and right magnetos to provide power to the engine ignition system by setting the ignition switch to both.
Alright, we're set to both.
On the fuel control panel, ensure that the left wing tank is selected for fuel consumption
wing
by
tank
checking
right
that
here.
the fuel selector valve is set to the main tank LH
Turn that
position.
sucker to
Open
on.
the fuel shutoff valve by clicking on it to set it to the on position. Let's set the parking brake to make sure we remain stationary when the engine begins to pull. You may want to open the controls indicator by pressing right control plus enter to monitor the positions
No,
of your flight controls,
We're not
including
opening
the
that up.
brakes.
We're good.
Setting the parking brake takes a few steps. First,
Yep.
pull out and hold the parking brake handle by clicking and holding it.
And holding.
Next, while continuing to hold the parking
Press
brake
W.
handle, fully press the brake pedals by holding down the W key.
W's pressed.
Continuing to hold the parking brake handle, release the wheel brakes by releasing the W key.
Releasing W key.
Now release the parking brake handle to set the parking brake. If done correctly, the parking brake handle should remain in the pulled out position.
I think that's pulled out.
We'll now move on to the electrical control panel on the right side of the cockpit. Set the battery switch to the up position to provide electrical power. Also, set the generator switch to the up position to prepare the generator to take over once the engine is running over 1500 to 1700
Alright, there we go.
RPM.
Mm-hmm.
Click
This is
and hold the
fucking-
primer switch on the engine control
kill me.
panel for about 1 second to feed some fuel to the engine. When starting in cold temperatures, up to 4 seconds of prime may be necessary.
Alright.
We are now ready to attempt an engine start. To do so, first press and hold the starter switch to operate the starter and begin turning the engine. As the engine begins to catch, move the fuel mixture control lever on the throttle quadrant to the run position by right-clicking on it once. If you aren't able to start the engine successfully, return the fuel mixture lever to idle cutoff by left-clicking and repeat the process starting with priming the engine. Note, the engine starter can be easily overheated. The starter should not be used for more than 4 20-second attempts to start, with 15-second intervals, followed by a 5-minute
1,
cooling
2,
off
3,
period.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Is that the run, maybe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Alright, let's try this again. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Alright. Let's do more fuel. Prime it a little more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Let's try this again. Alright, not gonna happen. Diesel, hold the starter switch, operate starter, begin turning the engine. As the engine begins to... and it disappeared. Alright, that's okay. We can do this again. Stop the recording, and we will do it all over again. We can do this.